dear Julie. Ah, so wonderful to see you. Where is Charlotte Rose today? I can't see her.
Not yet, but you know, I do love my dear cousin, but it's nice if we can have a little tete-a-tete, just ourselves. There are things that I have heard that I want to discuss with you.
Hmm. Ah, such a pity. I have a new story. I'd love to tell it to both of you, but would you like to hear it?
Oh, of course, you know I always do. A new story, you say?
A new story. Well, remember the story about the white cat? The woman who was transformed into a white cat because she wouldn't marry that awful fairy?
I do indeed. Yes, yes, yes.
Well, this is the sort of the framing story for that. Oh, it's most charming. It involves a very handsome young prince who falls in love with a cat.
Yes. Another animal? Mary Catherine, I have noticed a slight taste for bestiality in stories.
Well, you know, animals are so much more trustworthy than men.
You're not wrong there. All right, let us hear your tale then, if you pardon the pun.
All right.
Once upon a time, a king with 3 brave, handsome young sons is worried they will usurp him in his lifetime. So promises that they can have the kingdom, but only if they can complete 3 impossible tasks. The first impossible task is to find the prettiest, most intelligent little dog in the kingdom to act as the king's companion upon his retirement. Commanded to return in exactly 1 year with their little dogs, the princes go their separate ways. The youngest son, whose adventures we shall follow, is a cheerful, charming, musically talented, artistic, courageous, handsome, and of course extremely well-built young man. He finds dogs galore, but none is exactly right. One dark and stormy night, he finds himself in a forest, and there comes across a set of golden gates, and behind the golden gates, a castle made of translucent porcelain. He rings the bell. The gates mysteriously open, and he enters a magnificent palace filled with beautiful furniture, tapestries, high ceilings, and lights everywhere. Mysterious, bodiless hands guide the prince through myriad rooms to a salon, where he is placed before a fire, put in a bath, and bathed. When he's finished, his hair is combed, brushed, powdered, pomaded, and he is dressed in clothes far finer than the ones he came in. The mysterious bodiless hands then lead the prince to a magnificent hall filled with great paintings of famous cats. There is a string quartet of cats playing in the corner, and suddenly a tiny figure in a black veil appears. The veil lifts to reveal a white cat. She is the most beautiful cat the prince has ever seen in his life. She can speak. Her name is Blanchette, and she welcomes the prince to her palace. The cat commands the orchestra to stop, and dinner is brought out by the bodiless hands. Pigeon for him, mice for her. As they eat, the prince notices a miniature portrait set in a bracelet on the white cat's paw. As he peers more closely, he sees a portrait of a person who looks almost identical to him. When he asks Blanchette how this could be, she sighs with melancholy. That night, the prince sleeps in a room decorated with the wings of butterflies. In the day following, and the weeks and the months following, the prince and the white cat together hunt, play games, compose music, write songs, and sing and play together. He finds himself falling desperately in love with the white cat. As he falls deeper in love, he forgets his task, which, if you recall, was to find a beautiful little dog for his father. Fortunately, Blanchette remembers. On the day before the year is up, Blanchette gives the prince an acorn and a magical wooden horse that will take him in less than 12 hours back to the kingdom of his father. The prince meets his brothers outside the castle. They have a selection of wonderful, delicate dogs to show. The prince pretends that he's ashamed to show his because it's just an old stray dog that he found on the side of the road. When the older brothers show their dogs to the king, he is so entranced he can't think of a way to choose between them until the youngest son opens up the acorn and out pops the tiniest little dog who can sing, jump through a golden ring, and dance the saraband with a pair of castanets. Needless to say, the youngest prince's dog wins hands down. But the king isn't finished. There is a second task, remember. This task is to find a cloth so fine it will pass through the eye of a needle. The youngest son goes straight back to his beloved Blanchette, who tells him to relax because she can easily acquire for him the cloth that he so desperately needs. So, they pass the year together in great happiness, he falling more in love by the day with her intelligence, charm and wit. At the end of the year, the prince doesn't really want to go back to the king. But Blanchette says, let's do this the right way. She gives him a walnut. Back at home, the two oldest princes have indeed procured cloth that can pass through the eye of a needle, but unfortunately not the king's specially made needle. Suddenly, the youngest son appears with his walnut. He cracks open the walnut. Inside is a hazelnut. Inside that, a cherry stone. Inside that, a corn kernel. Inside that, a grain of wheat. And inside that, a grain of millet. The prince cracks open the grain of millet and draws out a cloth 400 yards long and so richly embroidered, but it can pass through the eye of the king's specially made needle. But of course, there is one last task. The king says, whoever brings back the most beautiful maiden will be able to marry her and will then be crowned king. The youngest son returns to his darling Blanchette and spends the year hunting, fishing, playing chess, and watching great rat and cat battles. At the end of the year, Blanchette tells the prince the only way for him to return with the most beautiful maiden in the world is for him to cut off her tail and her head. The prince is horrified. No, Blanchette, my love, I cannot do anything so horrendous. You must do as I bid you. On my word of honour, we will both be happy. With a heavy heart and tears in his eyes, the prince chops off her head and tail. But when he opens his eyes, what does he see? The most indescribably perfect young woman in front of him. She tells the prince her story. The prince is astonished but filled with joy. He and Blanchette return triumphant to the king. As they near the castle, Blanchette is hidden from view inside a crystal rock. The two older brothers, who have brought exceptionally lovely young women, ask the younger son about his maiden. He replies that he's only been able to find a little white cat. When the two eldest brothers approach the king, he is very taken with their partner's beauty, but very curious about the crystal that appears to contain a cat that the youngest son has brought. As he draws closer to the crystal, it springs open, revealing a cat who steps out and then suddenly transforms into the most beautiful, most perfect young maiden that has ever been seen. She steps out and gives a dignified curtsy to the king. I come not to take your kingdom away, but to give you one. I am the heiress to 6 kingdoms, and I will give you one, and one to each of your 2 eldest sons. Your youngest son and I will rule over the remaining 3 kingdoms. And this they did, with fairness and grace, for the rest of their days.
Well, of course, charming and delightful as always, Mary Catherine, but I confess to a little concern about having the happy ending being a beheading. It just tastes too much of that thing that men, from the king down, they're always saying that if we just removed our heads, removed our thinking, we could settle down and be married and happy, as if anybody could be both.
Oh, but, Madame, it was not my intention to try to cut off our brains in any form. Perhaps I too have been overthinking in writing the story, but I wanted to write it in such a way that beheading had a purpose. For you see, Henriette Julie, my husband, has been released from prison.
What?
Oh,
Oh no! But how on earth? If anybody else was around us, I would congratulate you on your husband's freedom. But when it's just us, oh my dear, I grieve for you. How on earth did that come to be? I mean, I thought it was foolproof. Didn't you say that there would be witnesses that had actually heard him complain about taxes? Clear and certifiable treason against the king.
yes, but unfortunately it was revealed that that person was in fact my lover. And so it is him who has been beheaded.
Oh dear. Well, I always did admire your ability to plot, my dear.
Me? But this wasn't my plot. I was only 19. No, this is all my mother's doing to stop the Baron from gambling away all of our family money. First, well, you see, he was getting at my inheritance, but then he was starting to take her money as well, and she wouldn't have a bar of that.
I do honour to your mother for her devotion.
But you can't because you're not here. After her ending all of that affair, she ran away to Spain, and she is now in the Spanish court, where I believe she might be acting as a double agent.
Oh dear. You're speaking as if you're some weak and passive heroine from the pen of our friend Monsieur Perrault. Would you write any of your heroines to be so wafted around by fate and subterfuge? You can have control, surely.
Yes, but if the king dislikes the plots of any of my fairy tales or novels, he can kill them off by refusing to have them published. But still, the tales live on. And if I plot around his authority over my life, the deaths are more permanent, and others suffer.
Oh dear. Oh, Mary Catherine, please tell me you weren't so foolish as to fall in love with that lover of yours, were you? I know he has, fathered your child, that the Baron was so kind to give his name to, and he's true, he has helped you to try and get rid of the Baron, but please tell me that was all that was involved.
Well, you know me too well, Henriette Julie. Of course that was all. What do I care for my lovers? To me, they're all one and the same. I've had 2 children, after I left the Baron, and, well, who knows who their father is?
Oh dear. You might say that, well, for you they may all be the same, but I have discovered a most delightful difference.
Oh. Oh! You don't say. So you are having a little affair with our little héritier, Marie-Jeanne? Oh, do be careful, for although she is a scholar and very learned and witty, she still has a tender heart.
I know. That is the delight. She is absolutely devoted to me, quite besotted. She hangs on my every word. Her caresses are most pleasant, and even if not, she will sit. So there I have her sitting quietly in one corner, eyes upon me, and then in another, all my other lovers. I'm driving mad with jealousy.
Oh, no wonder Molière tried to ridicule us so mercilessly in his play The Précieuse Ridicule. He was jealous of what would happen.
And he has good reason to, indeed. Oh, yes. But of course, that play, that irritating play, that was more of an intellectual complaint, I think. And, Perrault defending us and all the salons with the news stories that we create, the stories of France and France's people, because, of course, we could not be we were the moderns, not part of the academy with the ancients, the men who alone have access to a classical education. No, we were on the other side.
Now, where the fairies are the gods and goddesses of our world that we control.
And the fairies that we create have a power that cannot be removed.
Hmm.